movement. So, so well, I had my mother. We tried to do a relaxer when I was coming out of my afro when I was about 9 because that I teased it and it took all my hair out. So this is like 50 years ago, and so it was like, okay, well then we'll try because relaxers were kind of new then, and I got something really light. Although when he lifted up the back of my hair, he said we'd made a mistake. Whatever, girl. You know what? You live and you learn. How about that piece? And we just looked up, and I just had, I've had a lot to learn. You know what? I think one of the big lessons for me is for me to treat myself more gently than I have, if that makes any sense. I found that I had acne because I was using products that were too harsh. I was, yeah, all the products that I was using, I was taking the oil out of my skin. Everything I was doing was too harsh. And that's like a metaphor for my life. And I had to step back and do a re-examination on that. Maybe there's a sermon in that for you. I don't know. But I was being far too harsh with myself. And when I went to a really great esthetician, she said, everything you're doing is all wrong. I said, okay, thank you for that. She said, yeah. She said, you're being far too harsh. I said, don't use hot water, use warm it, the hottest you should use should be cool water. I learned a lot from that. A lot, a lot. Oh, so girl, take that as a sermon. But how you feeling? Oh, you know what? Now let's get you together here, because I can't because you were going in and out the other day. Devin, let's make sure that Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams is in the right place because she was going in and out the other day, and I want to avoid that today. Okay, we want to make sure that we have you in the right spot. Okay, Pastor. Okay, so can you speak? Oh, you know what? And in,
Do you have any windows in your house?
Towards one. I do.
Try standing by one of those. I know it's weird, but sometimes that helps us get like the best signal. It's weird, I know.
I can't do it now because my phone is charging.
Okay,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Right now it seems like you're in a good spot. We've been clear for the whole sentence.
Learn
Okay, good.
stjude.org.
Okay.
Hi, I'm
Well, I
Aaliyah.
just want to make sure that we have her in the right
I
space.
love gymnastics, piano, public
Okay.
speaking,
I won't move.
and riding on the tour bike with my dad.
Okay.
You can help me live the life I want.
60 seconds, everyone.
Other
Okay.
blind people by making a tax-deductible donation of your used car, truck, or almost
And so
anything
when
with
we have the
wheels to
pastor
the
on, we
National
will have
Federation
me.
of the Blind. Your donation will help ensure a brighter future for blind children and adults. Just call 855-659-9314. That's 855-659-9314. Or visit carshelpingtheblind.org. That's carshelpingtheblind.org. We will arrange to have the donated vehicle picked up and provide you with a tax-deductible receipt. And if you know someone who is blind that can use our help, email nfb@nfb.org.
Blindness does not hold me back at all. Donate today.
The Thom Hartmann radio program provides all of the intelligence, information, and insight you'll need to win the water cooler wars. Weekdays 11 to 2 right here on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
10 seconds.
Okay.
Talk,
Let's have a great show.
WCPT 820, where facts matter.
change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Getting a little bit of feedback. Working that out. It's Friday, September 29, 2023. Okay, I'm getting an echo. All right, everybody. So let's talk about this government shutdown. It should go into effect late tomorrow night. How will it impact you? Still getting an echo. Okay. All right. Very good. This government shutdown, it looks like it's on track to happen. They could get a continuing they call it. I don't know if that's going to happen. It seems that Speaker McCarthy does not have a grip on this Republican party, and we are going to have a government shutdown. Hopefully, it will not last long if that happens. But there is Homeland Security got their money, Department of Defense got their money, but everybody else, well, you're going to have to wait. What will that mean for you? Hey, everybody, I'm Santita Jackson coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hey, Robert and Dave and Michael and one of the founding morning stars, but we include the guys too. We love you all. Crystal, how you doing? Robert, everybody let me know where you're coming from this morning. Barbara from Oak Park. That's right. Ari down there in Brazil, sending you so much love. Want to know what you think about this government shutdown. What do we need to know? We're going to have Congressman Jonathan Jackson on today to talk to us about what that means and what this fight is about. For many Republicans, the sticking point is the funding of Ukraine. They are like, look, we're not going to vote for any package that has money for Ukraine in it. And, we've not had a real debate about what we're funding in Ukraine. So, I just don't want people to miss their SNAP benefits and their WIC benefits and all of these other food supplemental programs, the programs that people need to eat. I don't want that to happen. But I think that, we need to really know much more about our budget. But shutting the government down, what is that about? Call me at 773-763-9278. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that Speaker McCarthy is going to be able to hold on and keep his job? Because many people are saying that, hey, this is about him trying to hold on to his job, because this is the deal that he cut in January. Remember, it took 15 votes for him to become the Speaker of the House. That had not happened in more than 160 years. So Hakeem Jeffries kept winning, but that was not the clear majority of the House of Representatives. But, so I want to know what your thoughts are about this government shutdown. It is a big deal. If it goes on for a minute, a lot of people will be hurt. Do we have a budget that prioritizes peace? No. Economic security for you and me? No. Shared prosperity? No. That's a real deal. Everybody, that's a real deal. The potential government shutdown, what does it mean when 62% of our budget goes to the military and military-affiliated activities? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Let me know what your thoughts are today about this potential shutdown. It could mean a whole lot. It could last a day, it could last 2 days, it could last a long time. They're saying that this is also some political gamesmanship, trying to jam President Biden. I mean, really? Don't put it above anyone. Politics, well, they are what they are. So let me know what your thoughts are. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I mean, Medicare, Social Security, SNAP benefits, FDA inspections. Gee, that is checking our food, small business loans, keeping people in business, particularly those who have government contracts. Yeah, all of that's on the line. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 69 degrees. Today it will be cloudy, 79 degrees. Up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, thunderstorms. The NFL, the Lions 34, the Packers 20. In Major League Baseball, the A's 2, the Twins 1, Atlanta 5, the Cubs 3, and the White Sox 3, and the Diamondbacks 1. In the WNBA, well, the Liberty and the Sun, Well, they're tied in their series. I wonder who's going to win that championship this year. But we're in the playoffs. We're going to have to see. They're going to be playing tonight, and the Aces will be facing off against the Wings. The Aces lead in that series 2-0. Everybody leading the news. Congress is running out of time to prevent a government shutdown. Will it happen? Lawmakers must pass a new law by tomorrow to extend government funding. We'll find out from Congressman Jonathan Jackson if it looks likely that that will happen. Donald Trump's fraud trial in New York is set to start on Monday. An appeals court declined to delay the start of the trial yesterday. The former president faces $250 million in financial penalties, but not prison time. In this civil case, a judge already ruled that former President Trump and his company committed fraud. He will now decide whether the fraud was carried out through illegal conduct. A lawsuit alleges that Tesla allowed racial harassment of its black employees. Now, it's important to be mindful of the fact that Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, is South African. It's something to think about, everybody. Workers faced racist slurs and graffiti at a Fremont, California plant. A federal agency said yesterday the company allegedly retaliated against workers who complained. This is the latest lawsuit blasting workplace environments at Elon Musk's companies. The UAW union is set to expand its strike today unless there is progress in contract talks with the big three automakers, Stellantis, GM, and Ford, everybody. Wow. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. What do you think about all of this? What do you think about what's happening at Tesla? I see more and more people driving Teslas, but you tell me what your thoughts are about what's happening in the workplace. Wow. And now Democrats are slamming the GOP for trying to force anti-immigrant agenda. They're saying into the funding for this new bill. And it's just a whole lot going on, everybody. Student loan payments will resume even if the GOP shuts down the government, which many people are saying will be catastrophic. And those are some of the headlines. Those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. I love this woman to pieces, and so do you. Love her anointing, love her fight, and love her love for people. And we just want you to get this book. I See You, Sis. You might see yourself in it. You should. You should. I See You, Sis. Of course, this is none other than Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, New York. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Oh, I am doing well. It's wonderful hearing your voice.
Wonderful to hear yours, and it's great to be on with you guys.
Absolutely. Well, talk to us. What's the good news today? Because first, how do we worship with you on Sundays? And then give us the good news.
Awesome. Well, you can worship with on Sundays via YouTube at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on every Sunday. And so we'd love to have you guys be a part of our worship experience for sure.
All right. I love it. I love it. So, talk to me. What is the good news? And I think we need it more than ever. You know, we're moving into what they're calling Striketober. More and more American workers are fighting for their rights. They're fighting to be treated justly, to make a livable wage, let alone a prosperity wage. I mean, people are really getting a sense of themselves. And these are exciting times, but they're tough times too.
They are. And I think what we're experiencing is what a lot of people are experiencing. We're feeling stuck. Most people are feeling as though they can't move. They have no fluidity. They have no choice. They have no options. Have you ever been in a space in life where you just feel stuck? You can't go backward. You're not sure of what lies ahead, and you just feel like you're stuck. Well, that's what I want to talk about this morning. I want to talk about the ways to get unstuck. For those of you who maybe feel like you've been in a position too long, a relationship too long, in a place too long, in your neighborhood too long, in a community too long, in a friendship too long, and you just don't know how to move forward, I want to give you some help and help you get unstuck. The first thing I want to suggest to you is when it comes to getting unstuck, we have to seek God's guidance. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge God, and God will make your path straight. When we feel stuck, it's essential to trust in God and seek God's guidance. This passage reminds us that when we rely on God's wisdom rather than our own limited understanding, we have the ability to move forward. We can just leave our decisions to God, and God will make our path straight. But not only do we have to seek God's guidance, we have to embrace God's promises. There's a world of promises out there for you. God says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, but to give you hope in a future. When you're feeling stuck, the one thing you want to know you have is hope and a future. I want you to know, regardless of a shutdown or a setback or a furlough, you have a hope and a future. Don't let anybody tell you different. In times of feeling stuck, it's crucial to remember that there's a plan for all of us. So we trust in God's promises, and that gives us comfort and renewed motivation. Next, you have to reflect and evaluate. It's not just a feel-good feeling, but we've got to be strategic when it comes to getting stuck. Search me, God, and know my heart. Trust me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting. Take time to reflect and evaluate your situation. Is it essential to move forward? Santita, I found in my life that sometimes the best move is no move at all. It's all about timing. Sometimes the best move is kind of to be able to stay where I am and reflect, analyze, assess, and make thoughtful, strategic plans of how I want to move forward. So taking the time to reflect and evaluate your situation is essential to move forward. It's like a slingshot mentality. Sometimes you've got to pull back to fly forward. Sometimes we have to pause and reflect, and that gives us the motivation to move forward. And then once you've done that, then you can take action. Now you're ready to fly. Don't merely listen to the word and so deceive yourself. Do what the word says. Getting unstuck requires us to take action. Do something. If you're stuck in a physical fitness rut, do something. Maybe just start by stretching. If you're stuck in a rut with a friend, do something. Send the text, make the phone call, take the initiative, take that one first step, because God has made everything beautiful in its time. Trust God's timing. So take action and trust God's timing. God has also set an eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning to the end. Sometimes feeling stuck can be a result of impatience. Maybe you're not trusting God's timing and how God wants to move in your life. So remember, when we seek God's guidance, embrace his promises, reflect and evaluate, take action, and trust in God's timing, we can break free from feeling stuck and move forward in our journey with peace, with joy, with love, and tenacity. So it's time to keep on moving, and that's the good news.
I love that. I love that. Because there are times when I've been in one of those moments where I felt stuck, and you just really have to go with it. And sometimes you do need to move, and sometimes what do they say? Sometimes it's no, go slow, or just hold on. God answers prayer. God sure does, and sometimes God says no, and sometimes God says slow it down, and sometimes God just says,
That's
well,
right.
maybe this is your test, and I appreciate that, because without a test, you have no testimony. But our mother told me, she said, you need to really read your Bible more deeply, because she said waiting does not mean that you're still. She
That's
said
correct.
waitresses are not still. They're continuing to do their work. You must continue
Yes.
to do your work. And it's amazing that
That's
people observe you when you're doing your work. And that's oftentimes when your breakthrough comes through. Somebody saw you do something, Pastor,
That's right.
So
That's right.
I hope
That's
everyone gets your book. I see you, sis. I see you, sis. I
right.
think you're going to see yourselves, my sisters, in this book. And my brothers, you're going to see your sisters, your daughters, your wives, your loved ones, your friends. So many great qualities, the heroines who are amongst us and who are within us. You'll get that from that book. You'll be blessed. I see you, sis. Everybody, go on there and get it, get it, get it. We need to go on and continue to make it a bestseller. That's what it needs to be, because it's going to lift you in your life. I love you, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. How can we worship with
I
you
love
again
you
on
too.
Sunday?
Worship with us via YouTube at 11 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time at First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton.
Well, you know what Joyce said? What a powerful word. Carolyn Ruff said, Amen. Dave Dowling, Monique, everybody is sending you much love today. You have moved everybody. That's right, everybody. Let's get
Much
unstuck.
love, back at. Let's get unstuck.
Get unstuck. Dr. Shanina Knighton, how are you? I want to thank you for staying with us the past couple of days as we talked about men's health, as we've talked about our men's health in particular, because we end up having to take care of them and ourselves, but I'm not mad about it. It's okay. We have to help them along. But what's on your mind as we look at infection prevention? I'm determined to get you to Chicago and to other cities, just determined. Dr.
Oh, good morning, Santita, and it's absolutely no problem whatsoever. I think we touched upon some amazing topics, whether that's been prostate cancer, breast cancer. For a long time now, I've been emphasizing how important it is for us to have a primary care provider, given, many reasons, but most importantly, and the one that's on the forefront being COVID-19, us not understanding the long-term effects, not understanding like what it is that we don't know about it when it comes down to unintended consequences. And so the fact that, we had Commissioner Lowry on and was able to emphasize, the importance of having a primary, ways to go about getting a primary, the fact that the county, even support the fact that they can assist people with being able to find one, I think it's phenomenal and essential because many times we've talked about equity and we talked about the fact that not everyone has access. But I think he provided some tools and some ways with where he lives to say, like, hey, we actually do provide sliding scale. We actually do provide this to people that are uninsured. And I think that that is a heck of a conversation. Us talking about the fact that just even, too, with people thinking about their bodies, how they think about their cars, and will just tune up, maintenance it enough to get by, but not recognize that we cannot put a Band-Aid on a oozing wound. And when I say that, put it on the Band-Aid on an infected wound just to say, like, hey, we're going to cover up the infection does not mean that that infection does not keep tunneling deeper and deeper. At some point, it's going to ooze over and it's going to come over onto the surface, and that Band-Aid will no longer stick. That is how we need to stop looking at our health. We are the CEOs of our own health. We are individuals that are responsible for allowing the healthcare team to be a part of our team, which means that they do not drive our health. They are educated individuals, licensed professionals that have gone to school to understand an additional skill set that can then inform us about things so we can make better informed decisions. It is our duty, even as licensed professionals, that as scientists, such as myself, continue to evolve and improve. These professionals are responsible for staying up to date on the latest practices, staying up to date on the best care options, and make sure that they are translating that information to the public so the public can then make informed decisions. And I said it a couple days ago, and I'm going to say it again. Your healthcare professionals work for you. You do not work for them. Meaning that if you do not have someone that is giving you adequate information, if you do not have someone that is taking your care and your concerns and your complaints serious, it is time for you to switch and think about someone else that will. It does not matter whether or not you have top tier insurance, county insurance, federal insurance, state insurance. It doesn't matter. They're getting paid. And because that makes you a paying customer, it still is important to understand that customer service does prevail. Your voice should be heard. Your concerns should be heard. And that's more of a reason for you to feel empowered to say that if I am not feeling right or I want to get these tests done, if that person won't do it, it's making sure that you find someone that will. Now, Santita, that does come with the balance. And when I say it comes with the balance, it comes with the balance of accountability. To know and not to do is not to know. If you are given health information and the information you know is correct and you do nothing with that information or you don't improve your situation, then you might as well not know what the provider is telling you. So it's very important that while, yes, you are leading your health care, you have to utilize the information that you're given in a manner that is going to work for your best outcome. Again, you get one body to tune up. You can buy multiple cars, but you only get one body to tune up. So my advice is to take care of it.
I thank you for that because, this is it. Michael Jackson said that and then he was out of here. This is it. This is your body. Take care of it. And remember, all of these people, we get it twisted. They work for us, including your doctor. Because guess what? You can fire her or him and go to somebody else. And you need to keep on going until you get someone who's going to be respectful of you, considerate of you, and someone who's going to pay attention to you. Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA. Sending you so much love today. Coming up, Congressman Jonathan Jackson talking to us about this looming federal government shutdown. What will it mean? Talk about it with him in just a few minutes. Dr. Knighton.
Good morning. Listen, I'm staying on because I want to listen.
Well, let me introduce you to my brother.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, Santita, I'm probably like a lot of guests that don't understand why this keeps happening. And I understand that there's budget deadlines and all of this other stuff, but it just makes the United States look so ghetto.
Not
that
even
we
ghetto.
Got to keep coming up
it
against
just
these.
makes us look crazy.
It is.
Don't put, because there's order in the ghetto. Let's not even put that there. I'm like,
no.
No, I mean, it's like, wait a minute. And remember, ghettos were started in Nazi Germany. Remember that? That term did not exist. Yeah, that did not exist.
I know, but it's order.
It's like, this is crazy.
But they have order and chaos. Yeah.
But it's like they're
order.
thriving on it, right?
Yeah, it's like organized chaos. And that's why I use that word, because it does seem like organized chaos. And yeah, so I am curious to know more about it, because that is an area that I am not knowledgeable about, and I'm not clear on why it keeps happening. It's just like if you're making a budget for your house, or you know that you're getting ready to get the shut-off notice. Like, why we got to keep getting the shut-off notice when we know that these bills got to get paid?
We know that these bills have got to get paid. Is Congressman Jackson on? Yes.
I actually just spoke to him. He told me to call him back in 5 minutes because he's a little busy right now. So I'll call him back pretty much once we get back on the air.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, let me pull this down. Watch your ears, Dr. Knighton. But I'll introduce you to my brother, and I'll just say she's listening. I'll say, "Oh, Dr. Knighton, I love my brother. I had a good time with him last week at the caucus. Boy, oh boy,
that's awesome.
I came back tired because I had planned to be home on Saturday, but there was a storm out that way, and they canceled my flights. I was like, well, okay, well, wait a minute. Maybe what I can do is take the train, because I had 2 churches that I had to sing in on Sunday. Not even. It was too late for me to get on the train. I was, I got 2 big IOUs out there. Oh, yeah. Well, when people ask you to sing for them, they don't have to ask you to do a thing. And I just said I felt terrible, because one of these guys is like one of the pastors was one of my father's. They were classmates. They were at the University of Chicago in seminary together. So I've known him all of my life. But yeah, girl, look, we're gonna find out what's going on, because these people have gone. I don't think we haven't seen the end of this.
60 seconds, everyone.
Okay. All right. Okay, just keep me on mute for a hot second. Here we go again. Mm-hmm. Dynamo Dave. Okay. I'll go to Dynamo Dave and we'll ask the congressman that for sure. Okay, how much time do we have, Devin?
15 seconds.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world.
Just get in my ear and let me know
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Will do. I'll call him back in 1 minute.
Okay.
It's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It is Friday, September 29, 2023. I was remiss yesterday. My baby sister Jackie's birthday was yesterday. I waited a whole lifetime, Dr. Knighton, to get me a baby sister. Every time my mama came back from the hospital, she kept coming back with these boys. So when I found out that she had a girl, well, I was dancing on the rooftop. I remember calling my next door neighbor, Dawn Lewis. I was like, girl, mom had a girl. Because Dawn was from a family of 7 kids. There were 2 girls in her family, too. And it was like we were just outnumbered by all these guys. I was like, what? I'm so happy. And I love my sister. She's not a baby anymore. Dr. Jacqueline Jackson.
Sending Congressman
the
Jackson
second,
through.
happy birthday to her. 1 day late, but I did wish her birthday yesterday. Just didn't do it on the air. But we've got Congressman Jonathan Jackson with us. Full disclosure, this is my brother with whom I am well pleased. Adore him. And Congressman Jackson, I think we have someone who has some admiration and respect for you. You've been hearing me talk about one of the top healthcare specialists in the world. In fact, she's an infection preventionist. Only 30,000 or so of them in the world. She's a registered nurse, and she's been a lecturer at Case Western Reserve University. And she does a segment with me every morning. But she said, no, I can't leave. I've got to hear what the congressman has to say, because I don't understand why we keep shutting this government down. It's not making sense to me. This is unsettling. So Congressman Jonathan Jackson from the 1st Congressional District of Illinois. In fact, this is the district that's had the longest run of African-American representatives of any district in the United States history. Of course, so pleased to have him with us today. And Dr. Shanita Knighton, you can meet Congressman Jackson as we go and ask him about this shutdown. Congressman?
How are you? Thank you, Santita. I appreciate you. Hey, how are you doing? I look forward to meeting you in person now. But great to hear you, and I enjoyed the previous segment. Santita, this is an ongoing battle. There was a deal that was struck bipartisan to avoid a government shutdown in the springtime. And the short of the story is that the Republican majority is trying to retrade the deal because the extreme MAGA sect in the group, Freedom Caucus members and the like, are saying that McCarthy did them a disservice and did not make enough cuts. So they want more cuts to what was already agreed to. Now, when you have an inflationary period and you're holding funding back to an old level, people by definition don't have the same purchasing power and are experiencing a cut. They want the cut even without having any adjustments for inflation. The effects that most people are having to pay on average, the average American is almost paying $700 more a month than they were 3 years ago, because we've gone through a spike and an aggressive inflationary period. And we're like, no, there's a line on that. And if you see the things that we're spending our nights and our mornings voting on around here, it's like pay the person at pay the person over Voice of America $1. They have these things that are just simply trying to defund, which is what they're doing, to eliminate government agencies. There was one vote we had last night that was proposed by a member to say you cannot use any of your travel funds to go to the Clinton Global Initiative. I mean, they just have all these things that are just extraneous, not dealing with the issues of the American people. And it has everything to do with spending cuts on the back of poor people. Not talking about raising taxes so that we can continue to shrink our debt and shrink our deficit. You never go into war and lower taxes. President George W. Bush started this in 2000, and there's been a continuing march towards this cliff and this extreme. This is the same extreme group that Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, says he can't deal with. He put the keys in the mailbox and left the speakership. This is the same group that Boehner says he couldn't deal with, that they had called to rescind him from the speakership. He put the keys in the mailbox. This is the same group that now McCarthy got excoriated and trolled for 7 days on something that was really perfunctory that should have gone through. But no, we went through 15 votes, and he kept reducing the amount of votes he needed in order to achieve the speakership because he wanted it so bad. Now the tail is wagging the dog, and where Boehner had 29 people, I believe, that needed to call him in order for him to lose his speakership. Now McCarthy has 4 votes. Any one person can come forward with it. So he is in a very precarious situation. The Senate, thank goodness, is preparing a bill that's bipartisan. I think they're going to have 78 signatures on it that they will present to the House. All we have to do is to have McCarthy put that on the floor so Republicans and Democrats can both vote for it. But if he does not, because the party is telling him, we don't want you to get one Democratic vote. We want to have all of our 216 votes to carry this legislation across. And if you do, we're going to call in your speakership. So we will see if he has the guts to bring this legislation forward so we can avoid a shutdown.
Is he putting his speakership specifically before the country, the welfare of the country?
Yes, absolutely.
So this is really coming down to him holding on to this job, not maybe because we're seeing that, for example, billionaires, according to this Common Dreams report, and a report that came out of your own Congress, they've gotten $2.2 trillion richer since the Trump GOP tax cuts. And they're trying to tie into this. Now, they say they don't want funding for Ukraine. Hey.
Santita, I am very sorry. I've got to get off this. I got a call coming in from the White House.
Oh, no. Well, do your thing.
Love you so much.
I love you.
And I will call you back. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
Bye-bye.
see, this is, love you so much. This is where we are, everybody. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Did that help you at all, Dr. Knighton? Because you're seeing that this is really, there were 15 rounds of votes. And I know because I got the hotel bill to pay for it because day after day after day, so that the congressman could get sworn in. Mom, dad, my whole family, we're all there. We're excited, right? But every day they could not come up with a majority vote. So, because you remember finally, this man was sworn in the middle of the night, like 2:30 in the morning. It's insane. But now, as we just found out from the congressman that, okay, at the end of the day, Speaker McCarthy is trying to hold on to his seat. In the meantime, and these people have become more and more intransigent. Did that make any sense to you? Because Boehner, who was known for working across the aisle, he could work with just about anybody. Nice guy. Had a lot of ideological differences with him, but when you got up on, just not actually sang with him a few times. He was a singer too. Then you've got Paul Ryan, who said, these people, I'm not going to let them make my life a living hell. This is because you can't work with them. You can't please them. What is that? How does that make you feel? They're trying to put an anti-immigrant agenda in here, even though everybody in the United States is descended.
So do you understand what I'm saying?
What is this?
Yeah, but it sucks because then to me, it's like the priorities. The priorities are messed up to me, even to the fact that we even having to worry about this budget or this shutdown, but nobody has any problems approving billions of dollars to go over to another country instead of taking care of the people that are here. It is. It's very upsetting. And no, I might not understand the inner workings of why we have to send money over there. But all I know is that still at the end of the day, there are hardworking individuals, our taxpayer dollars, that are contributing to somebody else's bottom line. But we got people in our own country that are hungry, that are without health care insurance, that are without resources. Got what? Now struggling just to get certain kids starting to eat, or even medications. The fact that medications is overpriced here, but you can go somewhere else and you can get them for pennies on the dollar. So I do. I think it's a lot of issues to be had. And I know I said my comment, Santita, when I said sometimes the United States just seems so ghetto or seems like it functions like the ghetto. And that's because the math is not mathing in terms of where our priorities are.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, one of the sticking points for this hardline group of Republicans is, quite frankly, funding on Ukraine. They said not one more dime to Ukraine. Now, I'm not mad about that. But what I am mad about is the fact that they have not had the same posture on the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Defense. These people get their money off the top. But I've got to have a fight over women, infants, and children. I got to have a fight over SNAP. I've got to have a fight over people and their medicine, Social Security, and Medicare. And I think everyone you ought to be fired up about that. And you need to call your congressional representatives in the upper and lower chambers, in the U.S. Senate and in the U.S. House, and tell them you want them to get this done. And you need to know where the money's going to. All of that. All of that. What is the fight really, 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 really about? Let me go to Dynamo Dave. Dynamo Dave, what's on your mind, sweetie?
Oh, good morning. The sunshine of Chicago, Santita.
My sweetheart, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. These Congress people, they're supposed to be leaders. Now, your brother notwithstanding, on the Republican side, obviously it's a fight between themselves. But we don't know, but most Americans don't realize that when there's a government shutdown, these people still get paid.
They do.
They still get their money.
Yeah.
And I just want to inform your listeners, and I was hoping to be able to let your brother know that Representative Angie Craig of Minnesota 1 week ago, she proposed legislation that would stop the pay of Congress if they're going to shut down the government. And I agreed to the act, but it didn't make much, in the corporatocracy media. Nobody really knows about this, but it's called My Constituents Cannot Afford Rebellious Tantrums, Handle Your Shutdown Act.
Mm-hmm.
And that would shut down, congressional pay during any government shutdown. And I was reading the Washington Post, a couple of weeks ago, said that the last 3 government shutdowns that occurred, which which party did those, cost American taxpayers an additional $4 billion combined, all 3 of them combined. I was like, what are these guys talking about? They claim to be the fiscally responsible party, and yet it winds up costing American taxpayers more. It's like they're just, it's like a bait and switch. They say they're one thing, they do another.
But they all switch around. I mean, the corporatocracy, whether the Democrats or Republicans are heading it, and at this time, you've got a small group of Republicans who are really calling the shots here. I mean, let me tell you what's interesting, Dr. Knighton and Dynamo Dave, is this. Defense, Homeland Security, and state foreign operations, that funding has been held. That's in place.
Tony Patillo's on hold.
And what's amazing to me is that we're looking at student debt payments are about to go back. You're going to have to pay them as of Monday. October 1st. And that's going to be catastrophic for people. As we heard Congressman Jackson say, cost of living increases have not been factored in here. This is unbelievable. And you've got Speaker McCarthy trying to hold on to his seat. Now, mind you, there is no backup plan. There is no consensus candidate who could step into the breach. So if you have no Speaker of the House, you can't conduct business, which is absolutely insane. Dynamo Dave, stay right there. I've got Attorney Robert Patillo with us. Attorney Robert Patillo, I had to get you on a little early. Congressman Jonathan Jackson was on with us, and he got an emergency call from the White House. Clearly, they're trying to avert this shutdown. I wonder if that's going to happen. What do you think, Robert?
I don't see magic happening this weekend. What we've seen is that this, I don't see this Republican Civil War working itself out in the next couple of days. Primarily because the people on the far right of the Republican Party have no real incentive to do so. They want to take their lump of flesh from Kevin McCarthy. They felt that they got hustled in the debt ceiling deal earlier this year, and they're not going to fold in this situation. And it's amazing to me that Republicans have somehow managed to shoot themselves in the foot 3 days in a row. That you start with the Republican debates where you have Nikki Haley talking about invading Mexico, Vivek Ramaswamy wants to get rid of birthright citizenship and called the LGBTQ community mentally ill. Just a complete disaster of a debate. Someone showed that Donald Trump was making fun of it. Then the very next day, you have the impeachment inquiry where the Republican witnesses say that no, President Biden doesn't need to be impeached. That none of this makes sense, and we don't. To the point that you had the Democrats making fun of the Republicans during the hearings on camera. You had Jasmine Crockett just lay into the Republicans. You had Summer Lee. Just ripping them to shreds during those hearings. And then you follow that up the very next day with the conceptualization that we really are going into a government shutdown. And then the question being, for what? Is it about sequestration? Is it about entitlement spending? Are we shutting down the government to make sure people have more money in their pockets? No, it's just a petty fight between Republicans that no one has any idea what they're shutting it down for. And it's very much showing a party that is in chaos and does not have the ability to govern. It's showing a schism to a level that we should have seen coming when they took 15 rounds of voting just to get a speaker decided at the beginning of the year. That this was a fait accompli at that point in time. We knew that this is how this story ended. It's Chekhov's gun that is finally firing upon us. And the question then becomes, well, there's no longer a question of if we'll have a shutdown. The question is how long it will be. Because we've seen these shutdowns last as little as a weekend. We've also seen them last 30 plus days. And the question is, well, what exactly will change between now and a week from now or now and a month from now that will change the political outlook? At the end of the day, you have to have a deal that will pass the Democratic Senate and that will be signed by the Democratic president, but also that mollifies the extreme members of the House Freedom Caucus. And the question becomes, which side will break first? And I don't see these people caring, because Marjorie Taylor Greene clearly does not care about much besides her own political future. Matt Gaetz has already announced he's running for governor of Florida. He doesn't care what happens in the House of Representatives. And if you look at some of the other extreme MAGAs, we're only talking about 4 to 5 people in reality that are able to shut the entire government down. And truthfully, Kevin McCarthy doesn't have the juice to call them off. Only Donald Trump has the juice to call those Republicans off, and I don't see him doing it.
And let me give a special shout out to my line sister, Janet Stevens Cook. Love you, girl. Impervious 54 forever. Love you, love you, love you. You know what? I want to know. Okay, say the shutdown goes into effect. That would happen at midnight tomorrow night, right? Will this be a long shutdown? And we've got Dr. Shanita Knighton, who's holding on too, because she's not a not so average citizen, but she's like, if she's in Cleveland, we're sitting in cities, we're in places where people are really struggling. When you're in Washington, you're really in a center of wealth, because that's where you see the wealth of the military industrial complex. All these fabulous new buildings are going up, restaurants are opening, because everybody in Washington, as we both know, Robert, they stay employed. They're always going to keep jobs, and they're always going to keep jobs that keep them living. But living in Chicago, living in Cleveland, which is where she is, living in Baltimore, we see the struggle, and we live it every single day. how long will this last? I mean, because you got the speaker who's trying to hold on to his seat. If he doesn't hold on to his seat, even though Matt Gaetz wants to get out, then Matt, go. Run for governor. You're taking up space. And you're making this man's life unlivable. So, I mean, and threatening to throw him out of the seat for what? He doesn't even want the seat. Or does he?
Well, it's interesting because if you listen to the people at the MAGA rallies and on conservative media, and I've been on Newsmax in the past week, on News Nation, on OAN, on some conservative radio shows and podcasts, they are completely in favor of the shutdown because for their base, they don't fully understand how this will impact them. Even though we do this every few years whenever Republicans are in control of the House and there's a Democratic president, they don't understand that, well, that trip you had planned to the Smithsonian, it ain't happening. That trip you had planned to Yosemite National Park, it ain't happening. If you are not just working for the government, but if you're a government contractor, we're talking about caterers are going to be out of business because they cater the Department of Defense events. We're talking about cleaning crews who go in at night who are going to be out of business. The repercussions of this are massive. And just at a point in time when America had avoided the recession for the last 2 years, when we are looking at positive GDP growth, we're looking at unemployment of 3.2%. Inflation is down to 3.4% nationwide. This has the chance to undo all of the economic progress we've been making. If people think things are difficult now, they'll be significantly worse if we suffer a 30-plus day shutdown, where a good chunk of the government is just simply not working. And I think that it's really coming down to one person, which is Donald Trump. If Donald Trump tells the Freedom Caucus to get on board and open the government up, they will. And he's the only person truly that has that kind of power, that kind of strength, and it's a very dangerous place to be. And I think we talked about previously, before the last election, that he will be running his own Vichy government. This is the Vichy government, where he can dictate Congress and determine what laws are passed from Mar-a-Lago, and he'll be able to do the same thing from a jail cell if that eventuality comes. So I don't see a situation of this being a particularly short shutdown if we shut down, because I can't see what will change between next week and this week. What operative things in the negotiations will change after the shutdown has happened versus before the shutdown has happened. If we can't come to an agreement now, it's going to take some very skilled negotiation and some very important determination to figure out why exactly the government will open back up. So plan for something taking a while. And people who are contractors with the federal government are already getting emails from supervisors saying, hey, you can use your PTO during the first week of the shutdown. You can use your unpaid leave thereafter. Save up some money, hope that things don't last too long. But
save up
exactly,
what?
for the rank and And for the rank and file, Republicans are going to have to pay the political consequences. We've seen in the past there have been no political consequences for these shutdowns. People just forgotten about it by the next election. People are going to have to start holding them responsible because otherwise this is going to become status quo. Why can't the Congressional Black Caucus shut down the government until we get reparations? Why can't the Hispanic Caucus shut down the government until we have comprehensive immigration reform? Why can't the Women's Caucus shut down the government until we have universal women's reproductive health? As you start allowing small groups, 5 or 6 people, to shut down and hold the government hostage, you give in to them, that you're simply making that the new way that government is run. Remember when the filibuster used to be rare in the Senate? It was only used as a speaking filibuster. Now every single bill, you just assume a filibuster, so you have to have 60 votes. As you start allowing the shutdowns to be the way that people get what they want whenever they have a tantrum, that becomes the new way that everything is done in the government.
Well, we're going to see. We're going to see. I mean, governing by tantrum, but there's something else going on here. I think we need to examine it. When we get on the other side, let's talk about it. Attorney Robert Patillo will be joined by Julianne Malveaux, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, esteemed economist, and we'll be joined by a wonderful panel as we talk about this looming shutdown and what it could mean when you have had to have 15 rounds of voting to come up with a speaker. There's chaos. And what if Speaker McCarthy, in the midst of this, what if he loses the speakership? You can't conduct any business, Robert. This is a mess. And as Dr. Knighton said, wait a minute, how does this make us look internationally? It makes us look like we're completely dysfunctional and people do not want us to be the reserve currency. Are you kidding me? You're unstable. This is awful. It's just awful. And when I think about Homeland Security, Department of Defense, the military got their money off the top, Robert. But the people, women, infants, and children in SNAP, they're on the hook. Medicare, Social Security. This is ridiculous. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. No, I mean, I'm disgusted by that, Robert. They get their money off the top.
What's even more disgusting, interviewed a conservative Republican congressman from New York last night on C-SPAN, and Congress still gets paid. So they said, well, if you shut down the government, will you forego your salary? He said, well, I'm not independently wealthy or anything, so no, I'm going to keep getting my salary. So these people are willing to shut down the government because he says he doesn't have enough money, but for the poor workers and the people who clean toilets and serve lunch and cafeteria workers and stuff, who
your staff, who you have to walk past every day, your staff. Mm-hmm. I mean, and wait a minute, everybody, it is a closed world up there. I worked up there when I was in college, and I really hadn't spent time in Longworth in the House office building, really, since I lived there. I was there last week at the CBC, and my brother's office is there. And I went down, and, they now have, I think, a CVS downstairs. They have, they have more stuff down there that, they didn't have this 30 years ago when I was there. But I'm glad that you can go to the drugstore because, oftentimes you can work there pretty late and you can't get to the stores, safely and all of that. And I remember I just walked in there past the people, who work. These are people who are paid basic salaries.
It's just a regular job.
Regular job. The people who cook there, the people who clean there. But there's such a sense of pride when you get to Washington because they work on the Hill. They're not going to get paid, y'all. They're not going to get paid. And that's what I'm saying. Save your money. Save what money? People cannot even afford to go to the emergency room, Robert. Come on.
And that's what
sending Attorney Connolly and Dr. Malveaux through.
Because I always hear this on my radio shows. Like, well, what's the difference between the Republicans and Democrats? Neither one of them care about us, this, that, and the other. It's times like this where you realize, like, okay, this is the difference between the parties. This is this is why black folks vote for one side versus the other. Because at the end of the day, you can say what you want about the Dems. They're not going to sit here and take food out the mouths of hungry children. They're not going to allow we're talking about earned income tax credit. If you're talking about child care, if you're talking about union workers, they may be full of it, but at least they're full of it on the right side of things. These folks are in a death cult almost, where they're saying that, and the many people believe the real reason for this shutdown is to slow down the Jack Smith investigation, that their only real interest is ensuring Donald Trump doesn't get prosecuted, and they're willing to shut down the government to make that point. Like we said, just look at the impeachment hearings yesterday. Complete waste of time. Completely silly. One of the most ridiculous things most people have ever seen. But yet and still, they will do it because the Emperor Trump told them to do it. And that's why I'm saying that he's the only person with the power to end this shutdown.
And we need to understand that. I heard Donna Brazile, Dr. Malveaux, and attorney Erin Connolly, I heard her say on one of the morning shows, which was true. What people don't understand about the nature of the Trump support is that this is a movement. And you don't have to like it. You don't have to love it, but you need to respect it so that you can deal with them accordingly. You're not dealing with average voters. It's just like Dr. Malveaux when Reverend was running. You weren't dealing with average voters. We didn't care what the final results were. We were going to vote, and that was it. Obama, we were going to vote, and that was it. There's some people and they come around every now and again, and it might not be about the person, but it certainly is about the issues for which they stand. I'm hearing something in the background, so I just need someone to get to a quiet place. The thing
That's me. I'm going to move.
Okay, no worries. The thing is, I think, Robert, because are you still there, Dr. Knighton? You listening?
I am, and I actually had a comment about that too.
Okay, no, jump in. I mean, because Robert, I think because we have not really embraced the nature of his support. I think that has been, we're trying to deal with him like he's some average candidate, and that these are just normal times. These are not normal times. People are starving. You got UAW, which is about to expand that strike today. I mean,
and I think I told you, Santita, like having taken care of vets for over a decade, I think I was astounded. And I ain't gonna say the last time because this didn't happen, but I want to say that this had to be maybe like somewhere around like maybe 2011, 2012. And I remember where a decision was not made in enough time by Congress. And I remember not even vets, let's say, our soldiers being overseas serving and their wives and spouses waiting at home for that check to hit for direct deposit, and it did not hit. And it's very upsetting and unethical when you have Congress that's going to get paid, right? But you literally have people that are fighting and serving our country that were at that time a part of not getting paid when the government shut down. And I think that just that in itself, when we think about how unethical that is, that somebody is literally putting their life on the line and they're having to worry about a check or being a part of a budget when they are a part of a war that they didn't even ask to be a part of.
You got a lot going on, everybody. You got a lot going
60
on.
seconds, everyone.
Stand by. Is that my line sister, Janet Stevens Cook, and my line sister and college roommate freshman year, Sherry Lovett Solomon. I was about to stop at Lovett, Sherry, but I know you're married, girl. Been married a minute. Love you all. I'm going to give a shout out to Impervious 54 when we come back up on the air. We are 40 years old. Oh, did I say that?
Oh, that's so awesome. Congratulations. Happy Delta-versary,
sweeties. Yes. That's why I had to say hello to my girls. I love you all. And I'm getting the full court press. I will be at homecoming this year and wearing red and white and no pink. That's like an inside joke with my line sisters. Well, I wore pink all the time. That was my color, and I still love pink. Like my bedroom is pink and green, but my sofa is red.
You had a joke that
no, my sofa's red.
We had a joke. Pink is the washed out red.
10 seconds.
Hello.
Be careful. I got some. Wait, what did Michael Jordan say? I got Republicans by these niggas. I got AKs in this show too.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio. Meet my morning stars over here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I've got to send a special shout out to my Deltaversary sisters. I am a proud member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, Public Service Sorority Incorporated. Janet Stevens Cook, love you, girl. Sherry Lovett Solomon, I love you, Sherry. Sherry is not only my line sister, we were freshman year roommates in Crandall Hall. Was it Crandall 119? Girl, you're taking me all the way back, but oh yeah. And I love you. And thank you for tuning in this morning and dedicating the show to my line sisters of 40 years. Yes, we go back 40 years. That's right. March 19th, 1983. That's it. That's when we crossed. I love you all. And we're talking about this government shutdown. Janet was married to Ted Cook, who was Mr. Omega Sci-Fi at Howard University. In many ways, he reminded me of my dad in so many ways. He was the Omega Sci-Fi. He's now up there with all the great Qs up in the sky, but I'm sending you and all of my line sisters and Sherry, all of you, love today in a very, very special way, and love to all of the Divine Nine. There's a lot of great work that all of my brothers and sisters in the Divine Nine do. And of course, I've got my soror, Dr. Shanina Knighton here. And I think we're doing a shout out to Dr. Malvo. Ooh. Oh, do I have that? Come on, girls.
Don't leave me out here hanging. I love you. Everybody, it's Friday, September 29, 2023. Sending you so much love today from the Santita Jackson Show. We're looking at this looming government shutdown. What will it mean? We're going to find out just the brass tacks of it. We had Congressman Jonathan Jackson on at the bottom of the show to start everything off, and he had to go because he was getting an emergency call from the White House. The Democrats are doing everything they can to avert this shutdown because it would be bad news. Now, mind you, off the top, the Department of Defense and Homeland Security and Agriculture and the state foreign operations, they got their money. And that's okay. That's a good thing. But what about WIC? What about SNAP? What about Medicare? What about Social Security? And student debt repayments start next week. In spite of all this, Congressman Jackson explained to us, look, there was a deal that was cut in January for Speaker McCarthy, these cuts that were put in place. But what they did not account for was a cost of living increase. So the Democrats have held the line. They're like, we're not, no. You're violating the spirit of the deal that was cut. You're violating the spirit of the deal. It costs people much more money to live, and they want to cut at that. But this is ridiculous. And Attorney Robert Patillo, before I go to the headlines, you said you heard a congressman, and I've heard them say it, because most of them are not independently wealthy, everybody. They're not. And they're struggling when they're trying to live between these two homes, a home in their home district and a home in Washington. Washington's one of the most expensive cities on earth. But what did he say, Robert Patillo?
You have Republican congresspeople who are still going to be taking their full salary during any government shutdown. Just because you're out of work because of them doesn't mean they're going to be out of work because, what they're supposed to do. And this is the problem of our system, that you have the people at the top who will not be suffering and the people at the bottom who will be. And I think that this should be required, that anybody who votes to shut the government down should not be paid for the entirety of the shutdown. But this is also why we see, so much rent-seeking activity in Congress. People like George Santos and Bob Menendez, because the influence of money over these individuals becomes overwhelming, and because we don't have strong anti-corruption laws, because as we clearly see, that even if you get caught red-handed, there's nothing anybody can do about it until the next election cycle. These people have absolutely no incentive to do what is right by their voters.
Absolutely. Call us at 773-763-9278. Some of these headlines so we can talk about this show. Talk about this on this show, this looming government shutdown. What would it look like? What will it feel like? What will it be like? How long will it last? Will Speaker McCarthy keep his job? Because that's what he's trying to hold on to. I asked Congressman Jackson, is he trying to hold on to his job? He said, yes, unequivocally. Yes, that's what he's trying to do. So he's putting his job before the country. But the Republican bench ain't deep. They don't even have someone who they put in place immediately. And when you don't have a speaker, you cannot conduct House business. This is a mess. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 69 degrees. It will be cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 79 degrees. Thunderstorms. In the NFL, the Lions 34 last night, the Packers 20. Major League Baseball, the A's 2, the Twins 1. Atlanta 5, the Cubs 3, the White Sox 3, the Diamondbacks 1. Who's going to be the WNBA champions? We still do not know. The Liberty and the Sun are tied in their series. They play tonight. The Aces, they're leading in their series 2-0, but they play the Wings tonight. So we will see, everybody, what is number one in the headlines in the United States. Congress is running out of time to prevent a government shutdown. We're going to be talking about that with Dr. Julianne Malveaux, Attorney Robert Patillo, Attorney Aaron Connolly, and we're going to bring on Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis to talk to us about that. How does it look in the counties and the cities? How is it going to look for all of us? Donald Trump's fraud trial in New York is set to start on Monday. An appeals court declined to delay the start of the final of this trial yesterday. The former president faces $250 million in financial penalties, but not prison time. A lawsuit alleged Tesla allowed racial harassment of its black employees. Workers faced racist slurs and graffiti at a Fremont, California plant, a federal agency said yesterday. The company allegedly retaliated against workers who complained. This is the latest lawsuit blasting workplace environments at Elon Musk's companies. And we might see an expansion of the UAW strike today. We'll see by late this morning. Student loan repayments will start on Sunday, no matter what, everybody. After more than 3 years, the pause on this federal student loan repayment program is ending. Congress passed a law in June preventing further extensions of the pause. It's going to be catastrophic for a lot of people. And those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. So let us talk about what this looming government shutdown will mean, what it will mean to you, what it will mean to me, what it will mean to women, infants, and children, Dr. Malvo, what it will mean to the SNAP program, what it will mean to people who are on Social Security, what it will mean to people who need Medicare. What will it mean to people who are now having to repay those student loans who are getting assistance? What's going to happen? A lot of people are going to be facing catastrophe. A lot of people are going to be in a lot of pain, and we have to talk about that. If Speaker McCarthy loses his job, you're going to have to vote and vote, and they're going to have to find a consistent consensus candidate. That's going to take time, and unless they have some, I don't think that they do. And there will be no House business conducted until they find a new speaker, if he is not able to hold on to this seat. This is not just chaos; it's a mess. And Americans
it's a hot monkey mess.
That's right. And Americans deserve much better than this. But I'm going to tell you, you need to call Congress and let them know that this is unacceptable to you. You need to let them know they need to vote on this immediately. And we need to start taking apart our bills, Dr. Malvo, ourselves. We've got, of course, joining you, Attorney Robert Patillo and Attorney Erin Connolly. And Attorney Erin Connolly, Dr. Malvo, has her own story because she is diabetic. And there are times when I've called Attorney Connolly to be on the show, but I mean, and she fights valiantly to stay healthy, but sometimes the nature of her diabetes means that she can't be on the show because she's sick. I mean, and there are lots of errands out here. Attorney Robert Patillo, so talk to me, Dr. Malvo. What does this mean?
Well, let me tell you, I'm working on a book. So yesterday I was at the Library of Congress, and while I was there, a young lady who we were speaking about from my research, she put a call on speaker, and an insane melanin deficient person was yelling at her about
melanin deficient. Stop that. Because
you know what I mean.
No, who's at the front of that line? But I'm not mad at you. Love you.
Well, but the long story short, the young lady was trying to help someone who called the Library of Congress and wanted to know that if government shut down, would the Library of Congress still be open? And she said no. And the woman said, well, I have planned to come in there to do this research, and I need to be there. And she said, well, if the government closes down, we're not going to be open. And this woman was so, I'm not going to use any of my labels, but she was so narcissistic about, well, if government, I paid money to fly to Washington to do this research, and if the government closes down, it's going to mess me up. And the young lady finally said, because I gave her a thumbs up, she said, I won't get a paycheck if government closed down. So your issues are not that critical to me at this point. And I was cheering her on, but, people don't understand what all is going to close down. Yes, the Library of Congress will be closed. The CDC will be closed. As Pete Buttigieg has said, the training of air traffic controllers will be stopped. Everything grinds to a halt. And a lot of folks don't understand how that trickles down to them, which is why this woman who was having a monkey fit with a young lady about, well, how can you close when I have this research plan? You just want to say, sister, please. But the fact is that the rhythm of government will slow, if not close. I have to travel on Wednesday, and they're telling us that if air traffic controllers choose to take time off or don't choose because they're broke or things are happening, everything is going to be slow. So folks are saying now, give yourself an extra hour to get through security at the airport because there'll be less security. This is what's going on. And these personal inconveniences are minor compared to a mother who's not going to get her WIC money, women, infant, and children's money. These personal inconveniences are minor compared to the Army will probably continue to be paid, but maybe not. And women who are spouses are waiting on their money. Will they get it or not? This also comes, at the beginning of the month. If you don't get your paycheck, this young lady and I were talking, and she said, I work at the Library of Congress. I make a reasonable salary, but I do live month to month. She has to pay student loans, and now she has to pay them back. It's going to be an extra $300 a month. And if she doesn't get her paycheck, she says she doesn't know what her landlord is willing to do to help her. In other words, they will get their money eventually, but if you live week to week, paycheck to paycheck, eventually ain't going to get it. If your landlord, if your car note, if you're late, you're also affecting your credit score. So millions of Americans are going to be affected by this. And what's amusing, and it's not amusing, it's ironically sick about it, is that it's about 20 of these MAGA people who are holding McCarthy's feet to the fire. He's tried his best, but he is a wuss. I mean, he's trying his best, but we shouldn't be trying in September. We should have been trying in July. Now, he did cut a deal with President Biden that his conference is not allowing him to keep. But what hits me the most, Santita, I could give you the high-level economic analysis. The lower-level analysis is, what does this do to the person on the ground? How does this affect Jane and Keith and Pookie and Tanisha? And it affects them hard. They're a government worker who's making $60,000 a year.
Wait a minute, Anne Maria and Jose and all these folks who are out here working every single day, who are living payday to Monday. That is what is infuriating to me. Most Americans don't have any money. I mean, Gavin Newsom was just on the news, and I appreciate, because you're a Californian. Okay, fast food workers, they're putting it, they want us to have them make $20 an hour. Do you know how much it costs to live in California? I mean, not you. That's the most expensive place on earth. People are moving to Vegas. They're getting out of there. And it is hard. No, people, increasingly, Americans cannot rent in the cities in which they work.
So let me tell you, I have people who are commuting from Sacramento 90 miles to San Francisco to keep their jobs, because Sacramento is a lower cost of living place than San Francisco. Meanwhile, they have jobs, good jobs in San Francisco, but they can't afford to rent an apartment. So they're renting in Sacramento and doing an hour-and-a-half commute each way just to survive. And this is not unusual. The same is true in Los Angeles. I had faculty members who lived in San Bernardino, again, an hour-and-a-half from Los Angeles, and because they could not afford to live in L.A. What we have is a crisis of economic stability that people don't want to address. It's not just about this government shutdown. It's not just about California raising the minimum wage. It's about a crisis of stability. It's especially, Santita, happening in the South, where you have right-to-work states who refuse to raise wages, But you have it all over the country. You have others who don't want to give people health care. And so this is a time, I have to tell you, you'll laugh, or maybe you won't, but this is a time for the voice of Reverend Jesse Jackson, or of Jonathan Jackson, or of Jesse Jackson Jr., those stalwart men. I'm saying you'll laugh because I just did a meditation for my church, and I talked about Rev and said, God ain't finished with me yet. And that was my theme of the prayer. God ain't finished with none of us yet, but God will be finished with capitalist America if people don't get right. We see weather crashing. We see finances crashing, interest rates crashing. People say they can't afford to buy. I just saw a woman on television who said, I'll just be at the food bank 4 days a week. She has a full-time job. This is what's going on.
You're seeing it. I mean, Aaron, what are you seeing?
Well, there's so many fiscal cliffs that we're approaching here. We have the government shutdown. We have a crisis in child care funding, where millions of families are impacted by the cuts to child care subsidies. We've already seen the skyrocketing number up to over 12% of children in poverty in this country based on the choices of the federal government. And now they want to get paid and not pay our troops, right? As we heard before, we have folks that are applying for medical benefits that won't get approved. You mentioned my diabetes, Santita. Those folks that are applying for changes or adjustments to their Medicare and Medicaid have to wait. They may not get their medication. That's a life and death situation.
Wait, stop. So what does that mean? Because I know how your diabetes does you. And I have one of my oldest and dearest friend in the world. She has diabetes, but she fortunately is comfortable. So that's not her worry. But for most people, it is, Aaron. Most people have moved. Okay, years ago, people were on animal grade insulin, but there were improvements and we moved to human grade insulin. But many people now cannot afford the human grade insulin. They're moving back to animal grade insulin because they can't afford, and they're rationing insulin. You can't do that, can you? And live? Help me. Am I wrong here?
You cannot. And so what will happen with the benefits under this potential government shutdown is most of that funding will remain in place through October. The problem is if you have any changes or are going through the process to receive new benefits, those pieces will be delayed. And that's a long process anyway. It's a stressful process to go through. And if you're in a medical crisis where you absolutely need your medication, for example, if I don't have my insulin for 72 hours, I die a very painful death. That's the reality for a lot of young people in this country. They're rationing their insulin supplies. They come off of their parents' insurance. They don't know how to navigate these systems. And something like a government shutdown where we're counting on those approvals just creates a quagmire of chaos, right? And that's what I'm referring to the GOP Congress here. They're agents of chaos. They're creating a system of mayhem that folks, their leader, I will say Donald Trump, is also he's the general of chaos, right? Look at the January 6th situation and everything that has come after that. They do not care. And as Robert said, this is the difference between the Democrats and Republicans. Yeah, Democrats cannot sit by and allow this type of behavior to happen where people aren't receiving their medicine or their benefits or our troops aren't being supported. We have military families that are on food stamps. What if they can't? What if they don't get their paycheck? What if that deposit doesn't come through?
Wait, hold on. On the edges of many, if not most bases, are payday loan centers. All this money that we put into the Pentagon and Homeland Security, it doesn't go to them. It goes to the contractors. And people ought to be sick of that. These people who enlist make no money. They don't make any money. And this is just ridiculous. And you deserve more, everybody. You deserve to be treated fairly. This is not right.
It's not. Santita,
I got 1 minute.
The existence of the payday loan centers right out of military bases is a collusion between the government and predatory capitalism.
Absolutely.
If the government were dedicated to our troops, which they claim they are, and people needed short-term loans, government could put short-term loan centers on the base with a zero or low interest. But they prefer to allow to profit off our troops.
And mic drop on that. Robert Patillo, why don't you take us out? I have 1 minute before we go. It's ridiculous.
Well, the important thing for people to understand is that when these MAGA voters, if you speak to them, I've been to plenty of Trump rallies, I've interviewed plenty of the Trump supporters. When you sit down and talk to them, the biggest issue is that they target low information voters. Donald Trump even said, we love the uneducated voters, because many of the people at these Trump rallies are on social services. They depend on the government at the same time that they want to cut government spending. And these Trump supporters are going to be the number one people who are affected protected. And it's important for Democrats to make sure people understand this, because after the sequestration in 2014, the economic downturn that we had was blamed on Obama. Those people blame Obama for what the House Republicans, John Boehner and Eric Cantor and Paul Ryan, pushed through. If Democrats can't just depend on the American people to just know that this is Republicans' fault, people will just see the president's at the top and that things are going bad, and they're going to blame them for that, regardless of the mechanics thereafter. Nobody at the barbershop is talking about Kevin McCarthy and Matt Gaetz. This will be inside politics and the people who are into the game. So it's important to get that messaging out there for those folks to understand that the same people that you're supporting are the people who are hurting you. The same people who are still taking salary are the people who are cutting off your social services, who don't want you to have access to child care, who don't want you to have access to health care, don't want you to have access to medicine, don't want you to have access to food programs, don't want you to have an earned income tax credit, etc. And being able to articulate that directly to the people, and that's been one of the weaknesses of this administration. But that word and that voice has to get out there.
And they don't want to cut child poverty. They want us to double. We have 7 million more people who are in poverty today than we did last year. This is ridiculous. And we deserve better. Not just better, we deserve to be treated correctly. This is wrong. It's just wrong. And you need to call Congress immediately and let them know that this foolishness needs to stop. Too many people will be hurt. Erin can't go 3 days without her insulin and still be alive. That's the reality for so many people. A government shutdown on what? And yeah, and I don't support more funding to Ukraine. No, I do not. But that having been said, there's much more going on here. These folks don't want you to eat. And you ought to be insulted by that. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. I am just disgusted. We're going to have Rodney Ellis on because we need to know. Dr. Knighton, are you still there? She might be gone. I want to talk about the impact upon Erin, the healthcare system, on Monday. Okay. Because in fact, Commissioner Lowry found someone who is in the county healthcare system here. And I want to talk about this and also find out, what we have access to in this county healthcare system, because a lot of people depend upon it. And, quite frankly, the state-of-the-art hospital in this area, Dr. Malvo, is the Stroger Hospital, which is a county hospital. I mean, it is beautifully equipped. And many of us don't know the services to which we have access that are there. So,
And Peter, I'm also diabetic. I'm not
know that.
on the program. I'm trying. Well, some of my mood swings and other things, they've now been connected to diabetes. But blessedly, I don't have to have insulin yet. But I'm frightened at the time that I will have to. Or not frightened, but just apprehensive.
Can we talk about that afterwards? Just real quickly?
Sure.
Because as a hypoglycemic, I'm on the flip side of diabetes, and I was able to catch that before it flipped. And I want to talk with you about that.
I'm going to have to jump up at 55 because I've got a 9 o'clock call, but let's plan to talk over the weekend.
Oh, yeah, because I want to share some information with you, okay?
Sending Commissioner Ellis and Marcus Evans, Representative Marcus Evans through.
Feel your pain.
Yeah.
I have cousins who are further down the diabetes track than I am, and they pay a lot of money for their insulin.
Well, and we're very lucky in Illinois because we've capped insulin prices with insurance at $35. So even with insurance, it can be more than that national quote unquote limit that the insulin makers put on themselves. If you're in other states, they're still charging way more than the $35 promise that was made earlier this year. So people are still struggling to make those payments for their basic enzymes.
And let me just say, D-Ray Jones, hold on one moment. She said, no telling how many federal workers are about to be laid off this week. And they're not going to be laid off. They got to go to work. They're not going to be paid. And when you talk about the TSA workers and the air traffic controllers, since most people live paycheck to paycheck, including people who make six-figure salaries, they're not going to be able to get to work because they can't afford the gas.
And the child care.
Oh,
if you're a single mom, and you can't pay your child care worker, is your child care worker going to show up? I mean,
60 seconds.
The layers of the reverberations are just amazing.
Yeah, but you know what? This is where we have to deal with the fact that it is wrong for us to be living on the edge like this. This is crazy. Commissioner Ellis and State Representative Evans, how are you?
How's it going?
Look, I know you're right in the middle.
Morning.
Hey, Rodney.
We have been fighting this morning.
Morning, sister.
But not fighting each other. We've been boiling mad about all of this. So then Dr. Julianne Malveaux, I'll introduce everybody in a hot second. But I
was hollering at Rodney just saying, hey, bro.
And we were all at that dinner. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to spend any time.
I didn't see him at the dinner, but I know he was there.
He was.
But I know he was there because he'd be everywhere.
Look, I passed him when I was running to go take that picture. My brother's getting frustrated. I'm like, man, I'm wearing heels.
10 seconds.
Well, I did not see Commissioner Rodney Ellis, but I knew he was there.
In the center.
I want you to know I'm up. I'm up because I know it's 2 hours earlier in Los Angeles. So that's why I had to get up.
I'm back at DC, bro.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. We've been talking about this government shutdown and what it's going to mean to you. I mean, that is really the thrust of this program today. How will it impact you? And of course, the esteemed economist and president emeritus of Bennett College for Women, Julianne Malveaux, is here. We've got attorney Robert Patillo. You've seen him all over the news as a pundit, making so much sense, part of the national leadership team at Rainbow Push. And of course, attorney Aaron Conley, Rainbow Push, but one of the top political organizers and consultants in the country. And of course, we have got Illinois State Representative Marcus Evans. I had to pull him this morning, and I thank you for being so kind.
Oh, my pleasure.
Look, I really appreciate this. And but we're gonna yield to Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. State Representative Evans. Houston thinks they're going to overtake Chicago in terms of population, but we're not going to let that happen.
We're fighting them.
We're going to fight you all the way. We got to fight them. But talk to me, Cook County. It's not Cook County, but Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. When you hear about this looming shutdown, and I heard from Jasmine Crockett early this morning. She had just gotten off the plane. It's just like this stuff just does not end. What is going on here, and how will this impact you? Because the counties give the money to the municipalities. Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Well, first of all, good morning. So good to be with you. Hear your voice, and Dr. Malveaux, Representative Evans, and a great organizer for Rainbow Push. Representative Evans, I've heard about you and read about you. I look forward to meeting you. First, the thing we're about here in Houston and Harris County is that for all those people moving in from Chicago, we are still in hurricane season. And if there's a need for disaster relief, we won't get it here. You won't get it there. Small business loans, people who need health care benefits. Obviously, when people have to go on furlough, but they have to go to work, I'm sure they're good civil servants, but they might not be quite as productive because they got to figure out how to make ends meet to keep their table occupied and take care of their families. It's a big challenge. People who keep the airline safe, it's ridiculous. And then the cost to the economy, they will be paid. They'll just be paid late. And there'll be penalties that the government will have to accrue. I think I read someone, the last one, depends on how long it lasts, but it'll be in the billions of dollars, so it doesn't save government any money. It's a frightening prospect, and to think about how it resolves. If at some point the Republican Speaker of the House has to share power, he's got to make a decision how much he'll give up to get Democrats to go along with it. You might have to have co-speakerships or something. At the end of the day, our foreign aid to
countries in Africa and South America, the developing world that we depend on, by the way, for products, the impact on the stock market. Even those of us who may not have money in the stock market, we still are hurt when the stock market goes down. It has a ripple effect on our economy. It's ridiculous. It's the worst form of voodoo economics you can think about.
Oh, wow. You're taking me back to Reagan, but that's, I mean, he really helped to kick so much of this off. K-Mac says, I'm an essential worker for the federal government, and she still has to go to work if there is a shutdown. And I want you to respond to me, K-Mac, or call. What about gas? What about paying for public transportation? Are you a parent? How are you going to make it? You know, because most people, State Representative Marcus Evans, 33rd District here in the state of Illinois, most people living payday to Monday. Lynn Richardson, the brilliant financial advisor, came up with that expression. That's the name of her book. Most folks are living hand to mouth. Even when you make six-figure salaries, the studies have shown that people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Without question. And you know, Santita, I'm so glad to be here. You know, Houston, Atlanta, all the places around the country where Black people are, you know, that's our community. We got one community. And actions like this is an attack on our community. It's an attack on the middle class. It's the old playbook of these new Republicans. And it's really sad because, you know, they're hurting all the people. They're trying to hurt our people, but they're hurting all the people. And I was talking to Commissioner Bill Laurie, our Cook County Commissioner, about the health care. You know, we have a county hospital that helps people from all over this region, and they receive federal dollars. The backbone of government operation is a lot of federal support. Why do you want to attack the everyday people of Illinois and across the country? It never makes sense to me. When our Governor Rauner tried to do it here, it didn't make any sense. This is the worst, most fiscally irresponsible thing that a government can do, is not pass a budget.
So what happens? What do you see in your office? You know, when the money's not there. I mean, what happens to the people who have who are on WIC, on SNAP, who get Medicare and Medicare coverage and Social Security coverage? I mean, what do they call you and say?
You know, it's a challenge. They're just talking to the federal workers in our community. You know, they're concerned, they're worried. You know, their blood pressure rises. But it's an attack on the working class people in the United States. And we got to push back. You know, we got to vote. We got to talk about this. I'm just so glad you're talking about it, because even the discussion of this, you know, changes the stock speculations. I mean, this is what these terrible folks do. They attack us in all types of ways. Even a discussion of something like this terrible is having a ripple impact on the economy.
I want you to call us at 773-763-9278. K-Mac, you're on my heart right now because you're an essential worker. You've got to go to work anyway. And you're talking about really the pain that you are in financially trying to make this work. Attorney Robert Patillo. I mean, Dr. Malveaux makes the point. Child care, Medicare, Social Security, WIC, SNAP, we can just keep on going. But off the top, Department of Homeland Security, they got their money. Agriculture, they got their money. These international services, they got their money. I mean, but the people are left not even holding. There's no bag to hold. They ain't got nothing. Robert?
Exactly. And then also I want people to think about the reverberating effects of this throughout the economy, because the little diner next to Capitol Hill where people go to for lunch, they're closed now. They're going to be closed now. The parking deck, where it costs you $27 a day to park. I found out a couple of days ago there's $27 a day to park in D.C. Quite a lot of money. So don't go to D.C. if you don't have money. But yeah, they're going to be closing. Also, it reverberates throughout the entirety of the economy. And the question has to be, for what? What are Republicans doing this for? What are they attempting to achieve out of this? And when they talk about, well, we want to cut spending, just the Republican debate on Tuesday, every candidate made the point that Donald Trump spent $8 trillion while he was in the White House. Wow. So for the people who say, well, the economy was better under President Trump, yeah, he put it on the credit card. Think about Christmas. Everybody loves opening all the presents on Christmas. Nobody likes paying the credit card bill on January the 1st. We're now in the place of paying the credit card bill on January the 1st for what President Trump ran up. And do you think you got $8 trillion of value out of what the spending Republicans are doing? No, that money went to the millionaires and billionaires. They sent you a $1,400 check, and that was pretty much it. And we have to make sure that people understand what is actually going on here. That this is an extreme group of Republicans, just as we saw a decade ago with the beginnings of the Tea Party, that are not interested in spending cuts. They're not interested in the good for the American people. They're simply trying to push this extreme ideology to hurt this current administration because they know at the end of the day, people blame the president, not Congress, for things that are going bad. Congress's approval ratings are always in the 20s and 30s. Nobody ever approves what's going on with Congress. They won't personally be held responsible. Many of them have already gotten their gold bars from the lobbyists and everybody else, so they're not worried about what goes on to regular people. So, well, look, we know a lot of people in Congress apparently just have gold bars sitting around their house. It's just a thing that happens. But we have to understand that when election season comes, we have to start rooting out these extreme ideology from our government because they're nothing but nihilists. They would rather see the entire system burn than them be out of power. And President Trump is the only person who controls these people. He could send out a truth social message, a tweet later on today, and say, let's fund the government, and the government will be funded by 5 o'clock today. And there's no reason for an unelected person to have that much power.
Robert, what kind of
yes, ma'am.
Do you truly think that Mr. Trump would send out such a message? He has been encouraging them to shut government down.
That's what he's saying.
That's my point. He won't do it, but he could.
But he can't, because his narcissism and his nihilism will not allow him, as President Biden said yesterday, to put country over parties. That's the issue here. If we look at the millions of people who are going to be affected by a government shutdown, they're not all Democrats or Republicans. They're Americans.
Well, wait.
They're people like the young.
Because this is a transpartisan issue.
At the Library of Congress.
This is a transpartisan issue. This has nothing to do. Yeah, no. I'm just saying everybody's paying, and this is horrible. And I think that when people start starving, a lot of things fall by the wayside. Stay right there, Dr. Malvo, because we've seen one of the most powerful persons in state government in the history, in our history, has been Rodney Ellis. But you left state government and you moved to county government. Mm-hmm. Do you have what space do you have in county government when you have these crazy cuts that are coming in education and housing and food aid? Do you have any space to do anything? Now that because you're about to run for your third term, yes?
Yeah, very little runway. And look, most local governments around the country have benefited tremendously from the Biden-Harris ARPA relief and economic relief packages. And we started all kinds of creative programs in Cook County. We followed you all's lead on guaranteed income, LA, Harris County, Cook County. Three largest in the country. We all did it. I mean, all that money will be standing on the sidelines just waiting. It's a tremendous ripple effect across the country. And, look, it's going to impact the Justice Department. I think Dr. Malvo was alluding to Trump. He's worried about his prosecution. He's worried about himself. He wants his prosecutions to be able to stop. It's ridiculous. It'll have a ripple effect across the economy. And with this group in control of the House, there's no the shutdown would last. I think the last one was about 15 days, but we have no idea. It's at least, it depends on how much is cut, what impact the furloughs have. It's at least $1 billion, at the very minimal $1 billion a day.
Dr. Malvo, what are people to do? I mean, you're an economist, and I realize you look at the macro, but you also look at the micro. People are living on the edge. They have no money. What are we supposed to do?
At the very micro level, first of all, don't get into any more debt, please, because it's going to kick you in the butt. Interest rates are very high. People are looking at their credit cards and how you're going to live. Don't do that. If you have to humble yourself and go to a food bank, do. Do what you have to do to survive. It's survival time. And there are a lot of people who are trying to help our government workers and others who will not get a paycheck. So figure it out. Get online. Where can you pick up some food? I just saw a lady online who was talking, but not online, on CNN or something, wherever I watch in the morning. And she was talking about how she only had $100 left from her food stamps, her SNAP money. And she said, I've got to make it stretch for 2 weeks. Was holding it for 1 week, now I have to work for 2 weeks. If you're at that level, don't be proud, just do it. The other thing is, do not fall for any scams. There's going to be a lot of scams out here. We can give you a payday loan. No to the no, no, no. Anyone who approaches you about that, tell them no and give them the finger. Okay, Santita, I know that you feel cool with that. But
no.
But, you know,
oh gosh.
but people will be coming at you because they know.
Well, wait a minute, Dr. Malvo. Will they
loan.
come at you online? Will they be advertising in their windows? How does that work?
They'll come at you online. They will be advertising fingers at the window. They may even come to your house because this is a good time for predatory lenders to get your money. So all you have to say is no to the no to the no, and then figure it out. Go to your church. Go where you have to go. Talk to your lenders. If you're in a situation where you've got a payment, your rent is due, and your check has not come, talk to your landlord. Because you know what? If you're a federal employee, you will get your money back. The issue is just how long you have to wait. So talk to your landlord and say, look, I work for the Congress. But talk to them. Don't make them talk to you. Take control of it. So that you're not somebody banging on your door saying, where's my money? You go to them immediately and say, this is what my situation is. Can you work with me? Most people will. Some people won't. But you have to take the first step. What you have to do is look at what your money is, what your budget is, and how you can survive through this. It may just be 3 or 4 days. It may be, the last time, though, was 31 days. So it was more than a month. That meant that people who are called essential workers were at work for more than a month without a paycheck. It also meant that people, like my little friend at the Library of Congress, she's not essential. So, she doesn't have to work, and she told me she's going to start looking for waitressing. She's a young girl. She said, I'm going to start looking for waitressing. Do what you have to do to survive. But also, everybody you know, have them call your congressperson and say, get this nonsense going. Stop it. Do not allow Kevin McCarthy and his minions to create economic hardship for millions of Americans. If they get enough calls, and call Republicans, don't just call Democrats.
You got to call everybody.
Republicans.
You got to
but
call
I'm just saying, if you're not,
no. What people need to understand is the way the game is played. Everybody, Republicans and Democrats, respond to pressure. That's why I think that's why we, particularly Black people, play this partisan politics a little too hard, and we play to our detriment. You got to negotiate with everybody, and you must let them know, don't play with me. I need you to vote this way. That is how these votes are tracked. I worked on the Hill. I remember when I was in college, when I worked for Congressman Savage, he wanted to know who called. He didn't ask the party. He wanted to know who was calling.
No. How many people have called? And that's the story. So, folks, it's your life. It's your world. What you have to do is manage it.
And it's your government.
And
it's your government.
Yeah.
And it's your money. Yes, Patillo, Robert?
Yeah, there's a little breaking news to throw more ink out there. Senator Dianne Feinstein has just passed away. It was just announced.
Wow.
Oh my God, that was my girl.
God bless her.
I made my entry to politics in San Francisco. I was San Franciscan. Oh gosh.
Oh wow, bless her heart. And she fought until the very end. And the person who was instrumental in making Mayor Dianne Feinstein, and then Senator Dianne Feinstein, none other than Willie Brown, who we know so well, who also was instrumental in the career of Kamala Harris. The reason we have her now is Willie Brown. He has been Gavin Newsom, Maxine Waters, Willie Brown, but we thank her for all of her service. And even as she was ill, she fought to serve, and you've got to admire and respect
a good fight.
She did.
She fought a good fight. But I would say this is a message to Gavin Newsom. Do not play games with this empty seat. He's talking about a caretaker. Appoint Barbara Lee. There is no black woman in the United States Senate. Appoint Barbara Lee. Gavin, don't punk out.
But but also I think that the fact that she's a black woman is important, but I look at her history of service. I look at someone who went from welfare to where she is right now. I look at someone who has fought for the community. I'm telling you, I think it is great to have black people black faces in high places, but what matters more to me are those who will represent those who are locked out and who are disenfranchised. And Barbara Lee has proved that she will do that. And I know you're not signing up for this either, but I'm not up for putting black folks in office who are just going to sit there and take up space.
No, honey, brown places.
I don't have time for that.
Brown places
in high places. I ain't got time for that.
Places do not attract me.
I don't want that.
Is a sister girl who has done the work. She has been our sister. She has been.
And she's been.
This is home for me.
But you would know, and you know her, and I met her during the first Jackson campaign. But what I love about her is that she's a sister to everybody. She has worked to make this country fair, and you would know that. But I want Illinois State Representative Marcus.
I am so heartbroken. You know what? I'm sorry, Santita. I have to bounce. I have a 9 o'clock call.
I love you and thank you.
Colleagues, I appreciate you. Rodney, we must talk soon.
If you got a 9 o'clock call, you still on the East Coast. I'm going to call you later.
Yeah, I'm back on the East Coast, boo.
Yo,
I am back on the East Coast.
Let me get my representative on here so we can say something before we all go. Illinois State Representative Marcus Evans. If people find, love you, Dr. Malvo, if people find their backs against the wall, can they call you? What should they do? Because people are now scared.
They're scared, but I want calls like this to empower the people. We all got a friend in the Republican community. We all got to register more. Mm-hmm. We have to know that politics is not a game. It's not a reality TV show. It's real, and there's real results to it. So we all got to get up and, like we used to do, remember the importance of politics and spread this message. Of course, the state services are mostly state funded. So a lot of those services still be available to help people just survive. But we got to have a thrive mentality. And part of that is politics. Part of that is voting and paying attention to what these people are doing systematically to attack us. But of course, Illinois is going to have some safety nets. So, if you're in need, we have our Illinois Department of Public Health. I'm the vice chair of our Public Health Committee in the Illinois House of Representatives. And we will help our people survive. We're going to do that. That's what we do. But
stay right there because we're going to be on StreamYard. And just for a few more minutes, because I want you to let people very quickly, what is your number and how can people get in touch with you, Representative?
Yeah, of course, it's online, repevans.com. And of course, my office is 773-783-8492. And I encourage people to, if you're in need, like the speaker said before, call your local representative office, whether the state rep's office, your county commissioner's office. Don't just suffer in silence. There's programs to help people out here. We fund a lot of them. And the most important thing is, check your voter registration. Get on social media talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
People who attack us, we got to fight back. We always have as Black people. And it's not time to get scared now. I really love what you're saying about Barbara Lee as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, and I'm with you on that one, I think being Black is not good enough when you're making decisions. When you're making decisions, I want you to be bold, not Black. I want you to have a willingness to fight. And that lady is a fighter. And that's somebody I'll be comfortable,
against the invasion of Iraq all by herself.
Let me tell you, you gotta be bold.
That you look, and let me tell you, and you have to be principled. There are some people.
I prefer Black, but I need bold.
Let me tell you what I prefer. I prefer someone of high principles. Period. And you know what? There's some Republicans who make some sense. I think you need to appeal to everybody because it's your country, and you need to put your patriotism ahead of your party. This is about saving the country and saving people. That's what this is about. Red, yellow, black, brown, and white. We are all precious in God's sight. God does not love anybody better than he loves anybody else. No. We're all God's children. That's it. And we all need to be fighting for each other today. Today. Stay right here. I'm going to get closing statements from all of my panels. But I love you, everybody. See you on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson on Sunday. I'm going to have to pull Illinois State Representative Marcus Evans into that, too. And we're going to have a health panel next week. I'm going to pull him into that, too. We're going to do all of this. That's right. Stay right there. I love you, everybody. Devin, thank you for a great show. Love everyone. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Rodney Ellis, what should people do? I mean, because you have navigated state government, county government. I mean, and you also understand national government because you headed up Mickey Leland's office. So you understand government better than anybody I know. What do we do now?
They need to make some noise. And earlier, your comment was so right on point. They need to call some Republican offices, and not just on the national level. Call them on the local level and make sure that they feel that heat. You know, I know Representative Evans had a health scare early on in his life, and that's going to be one of the areas where people are most vulnerable when they have to face a need for health care when there's a crisis. And no doubt about it, people don't work as hard when they're not getting paid. When they're on the job, if you're in the military and you got to worry about what happens to your family, it's common sense tells you you cannot be as effective. So it's a big challenge. And I hope it doesn't last more than 30 days, but it's hard to tell with this crew. You got some idealistic ideologues. And look, I must say that, we mourn the loss of Senator Feinstein. What a great career. And when I think of Barbara Lee, I think about her legacy. She was a staffer to Ron Dellums, the great Ron Dellums in California, back when I was on the Hill. Many years ago, but so she had good political wisdom, and she earned it. She learned it from some of the best.
Well, it's hard to believe that she has made her transition, but you could see that she was struggling with her health. You could see that, and
it's a lesson for all of us. In some ways, I know there was a lot of pressure to step down, and I've been at it 40 years, and I hope I have the judgment at some point and realize that, if I'm near the end, you don't have to have that honorable in front of your name. But you got a number when health steps in and it's a challenge, and your staff plays a role and your family and encouraging you. You can't be so wedded to politics towards the end. Enjoy time for oneself, be with one's family. But, that decision was made. You see that with, the Republican leader in the Senate as well, with McConnell. There's just real issues there. We got a lot of young people like Representative Evans coming up, and we ought to take pride in knowing that there are people who can come behind us and carry the torch.
Representative Evans?
Without question, and I think that the connectedness of the levels of government is so important. When the federal government chooses not to do something, we do need to understand how that's going to affect the state and the local level, and we need to target everybody. Because the problem I got with some of the Republicans is, this is a time now, like you were saying, Santita, earlier, to say, well, you know what, this is probably not the right direction. And that's the one difference I think now from Democrats and Republicans. You see Democrats having an inner Democratic discord at times, but with them, it's we just gonna follow Trump, and that's the frustrating part. And he ain't even a Republican, so it's just so. This is the most frustrating time to me, and particularly since I've been in government. I just don't understand these people, and so we have to fight. We have to lock arms and fight back.
But you know what? I since 2008, we've had nothing but chaos. Really, at the beginning of the millennium, because people were losing their homes. And I think we're just at an inflection point, because what Trump is a master marketer. What he did was he stepped back and looked at he stepped back and he looked at the political and social and cultural landscape. That's how he's been able to remain relevant for 50 years, just about. And I get it. That's why I'm saying, I tend to be a lot less emotional in my politics Number one, my father told me not to be emotional because it clouds your judgment. Because you have to wonder, okay, what is he doing? The thing is, he grabbed onto an angry electorate. Most Americans' median rent in the United States is $2,000 a month. Who can afford that? Who can afford that? People who make six-figure salaries are living paycheck to paycheck, and not just because everybody bought a Mercedes Benz. No. America is increasingly becoming unaffordable. People are leaving California in droves. They can't afford to live there. People are leaving. We've lost 300,000 Black people in Chicago. You can't afford to live here, y'all. Now, there's something going on beyond Trump and Trumpism. There's something that is driving that. And you need to listen to the people who are angry, who are upset, and who are all of that so that we can resolve the problem. Don't fix the blame, fix the problem. My brother Congressman Jackson says it all the time. Fix the blame. Don't fix the blame, fix the problem. We're not going to get out of this until we fix the problem. The problem is an economic system that disadvantages 99% of us. $2.2 trillion in wealth has been accrued by the wealthiest people in this country alone. I mean, look, the corporatocracy is driving the democracy. Y'all, we need to understand that. The people,
one of the most important things that they can do also, Santita, is make sure they're registered to vote.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, look, we're going to continue on this cycle. No telling what kind of foolishness can go on between now and the election. Register to vote. I mean, there are a series of other timetables that can come up. They want anything that draws attention. And with Trump and his followers, you know, with the issues that he's facing in the courts all around the country, I mean, he has nothing to lose. He benefits from the chaos. So we're going to have to will endure it. It's going to be a challenge, though. Santina, I got to run because I got to get on a conference call. I love you, Representative. I look forward to meeting you. And Attorney Patillo is there. He always closes just so eloquently, so close for me as well. Love you, Santita. All right, give my love to Reverend. I'll be there at the end of October to see him. I'm gonna come have dinner with him one night.
All right.
Thank you.
Because you know he's running Texas, so he's got.
And I hope it's not too cold. I hope it's not too cold when I show up.
We're gonna put a fur coat on your back and just run you to the airport.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Used to be.
All right.
I got to head out. I got at 8 o'clock.
But what do you want to say before you go?
And
let me thank you for, because I know we grabbed you, Commissioner Lowry grabbed you. I know you were like, I got a what? Please, thank you, State Representative Marcus Evans. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Look, first of all, I love my people. I love you and your whole family. And it's just such a joy to talk to the people. We got to talk to the people because sometimes they feel like, well, if I voted, it don't matter. If I say something, it don't matter. We got to push back against these large forces. And then people like myself got to be bold and Black and push against some of the bad policies, of course. And I'm going to use my voice. But no, it's a joy to be here. I'm an early bird. I'm always up. I just want to tell you that we got to keep fighting. Everybody can do something. If it's registering to vote, if it's getting in your social media, if it's talking to your neighbors in Arkansas. Everybody knows somebody in outskirts of Indianapolis, up there in Wisconsin. We got to push and say, not passing budget is unacceptable. Starving people out is unacceptable.
That's right.
And it's sickening. It's sickening. It's unacceptable. And we got to have a point where it ain't about Democrat, Republican, survival of the middle class on some issue. And then passing the budget should be that issue. So I appreciate you. I'm going to support a state budget, and everybody should support the federal budget. This is sickening what's going on.
Absolutely. Thank you for being with us. I'm going to reach out to you. Because I've got to get you back on because healthcare is a real issue for so many people, and they need to know what they have access to in the state and in the county, because everybody does not have private insurance. And
now, I'm 17 years a cancer survivor, so it's my 17th year.
Bless your
heart. As a cancer survivor, and I was 21 years old, and it was such a struggle. You know, we didn't have any money. I didn't have health insurance at the time. I was misdiagnosed many times. So I love to come back and talk about my story. It was a wild ride, but God got me through it.
Well, you know what? Next week we'll do that. Because I think that what you're going to do is empower people and help people to know, A, that you can survive, you can thrive. But, getting through the fear Because when people give you this diagnosis, you are frightened to death. And some people won't even go back to the doctor because they're too scared, and that's real. That's real. That's real.
Yeah, I'm in. Like, whatever you need me, I'm around. And if I'm not around, they got cell phone and Zoom, so we'll figure it out.
Boom. How about that? I'm sending you much love.
You soon.
Oh, absolutely.
You too.
Erin Connolly, are you there? She might have gone to take her children to school. Attorney Robert Patillo. Well, it might just be me. Everybody, please call Congress and let them know that you don't want a government shutdown. Let them know. You not only deserve better, we deserve to be treated correctly. They will not let these corporations close down. They come up with emergency money. Remember, Goldman Sachs presented Nancy Pelosi a 2.5-page memo and said, if you don't give us $770 billion by the close of business today, we're closing the economy on Monday. Remember that? We're going to shut the economy down. And we'd already given them in excess of $20 trillion, that financial sector. Now, Americans deserve much. We deserve not more. We deserve not just better. We deserve to be treated correctly. It's our money. Why is it that corporations are too big to fail and I'm too insignificant, too small to save, but you still chase me down to get my money? You ought not take this. And the only reason this can go on is because we are not raising our voices. It's because we are not marching on Washington, because we're not marching on Springfield. We're not marching on City Hall. We're not letting them know that this is unacceptable to us. This has to be unacceptable to us. And you have to let them know it. And I promise you, you will get the appropriate response. When you let these folks know that this is unacceptable to you, it's got to be unacceptable. Otherwise, don't be a people who take anything. Because then people will serve up everything to you and will insult you and put you in shackles and keep it moving. Don't do that. This is not about Republicans or Democrats. This is about the people. You need to call a Republican and a Democrat and tell them you want this budget passed. I promise you the Republicans are going to listen to you. They don't have a choice because they want to go back to work. If you let them know, I'm going to organize someone to run against you and I'm going to beat you or I'm going to make you feel this pain, I promise you they're going to respond to you. Make them pay attention to you. This is not about a party. This is about power. This is about people power. That's all that this is about. The Republicans were the abolitionists 150 years ago. Now they almost sign on to slavery 150 years later. Democrats did not support voting rights and civil rights 60 years ago. LBJ pushed it through and everything flipped around. This stuff flips all the time between parties. Don't get caught up in that. Get caught up in the principle of freedom, the principle of liberty, the principle of prosperity for every human being. That's what you need to be caught up in. Don't let these people play you. And all this talk about democracy, when I don't have an executive order guaranteeing me the right to vote, please keep it. You'll fight harder for democracy, which you ain't fighting for in Ukraine because they're losing their civil rights and civil liberties every day. It was very interesting to see Nikki Haley block Vivek Ramaswamy every time he tried to talk about the things that Zelensky is doing in Ukraine. He is cutting the rights of the Ukrainian people, and all the money they were giving to Ukraine is not going to Ukrainian people; it's going to the military-industrial complex. You ought to be sick of that too. We need our money. We need healthcare services. We need computers for our children. Our children need their teeth fixed. They need their eyes examined. They need their bodies examined, and you do too. And you ought to fight for that. It could be blue. I don't care who it is, Arlene. If it's red, I'm going to make them work for me. I'm going to tell you that. Because whoever the president is, whether they're red or blue, they are my president, and I'm going to make them work for me. That's what I'm going to do. That is a game that white people do not play. They are never caught outside. They are going to be in power no matter what, no matter who. We need to grow up and understand that too. And don't vote blue no matter who. You better have some requirements. The easy girl loses in the courtship game. If you have no requirements, then people will mess all over you. No, you have some requirements of the Democrats. You have some requirements of this system because it is your system. That's what you do. Make people respect you. Period. That's it. That's all. So I love you, everybody. And may Dianne Feinstein rest in peace. She fought until the very end. You saw that she was sick. You saw that she was struggling. Well, you know what? She worked until she died. You know what? I hope that we all find something that we love to do so much that we just want to keep on doing it until we can do it no more. Many people retire and die. Or many people retire looking for that passion in their life. Find the passion in your life and pursue it. Don't get mad because other people have found theirs now. It might be power, it might not be a healthy attachment, whatever. Okay, I got that. We can work with that. But I'm saying you find your passion. You find that thing that you want to do until you can't do it anymore. You find that. I don't feel sad for Dianne Feinstein. She found her thing and she did it to death. No pun intended. And I ain't mad at her. I hope I do that too. I hope I do that too. And I hope you do it. I hope you begin. It's never too late to find the passion in your life. I'm 60 years old. And it's not that I've only begun, but God has given me a reboot. And I'm grateful for that. I think of the girl I was at 20. I think of the girl I was at 40. I think of carrying nearly 400 pounds. And I thank that girl who got up on that surgical table trying to fight for living. That was me 20 years ago almost. And I thank God for her because she held me until I was ready to come out. Until I was ready to come out. So everybody come on out. And I hear you, Arlene, vote blue. The GOP is anti-worker. I hear you. I hear you. But you got to make all these people work for you because you have a lot of Reagan Democrats who are now Republicans. And the Republicans are not working for them. And we have to force the Democrats to work for us because they've been corporatized, Arlene. I was in there. They fought those of us who are progressive, who are fighting for working people. Don't act like Democrats just fight for working people. That is not what they do. We have to push them every step of the way because the party has been corporatized, just like American politics has been corporatized, and you ought to be tired of that. You don't give in blue no matter. It's just it's like asking for a man. I just want a man. You better be very specific when you pray to God for something because God will give you what you ask for. And if you just ask for anything, you're going to get anything. And that is not what you want. I'm not saying the parties are the same, but I'm saying the corporatocracy is the same and they control both parties, Arlene. That's a fact. So you have to continue to push the Democrats to do what you need them to do. Don't be emotional about your politics. Be emotional about these poor people out here who are working hard every day. Period. I know what the DLC is. The DLC, the Democrats for the Leadership Council, who Reverend Jackson used to call the Democrats of the leisure class, they were formed by Bill Clinton and Sam Nunn and Al Gore and on to rebut the cries and the needs of the working people who came into the Democratic Party. That's real. And there's a fight within our party also for working people. These folks don't just fight for working people. They don't do that. They don't. So we have to fight every day within the party. You must be vigilant in the Democratic Party to make them fight for working people. That is why they have been losing working people because they have been fighting hard enough. So we got to stop. And you have to hold people's feet to the fire and make them work for you. Make them work for you. Make them do what they're supposed to do. Period. I fall in love with men. I don't fall in love with parties. And I don't fall that hard for them. I go, I love you, but what have you done for me lately? What you going to do for me? That's how I was raised. And I'm going to stay right there. You better come through for me. Then we can have a conversation. I love you, everybody. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on, well, actually Sunday on the tomorrow at Rainbow Push, but also Sunday on Keep Hope Alive. We will be talking about this. We hope and pray that there will be no government shutdown, but if there is, we got to fight. And if the Lord gives us the opportunity to fight, I hope that we will come together and fight for the right things and fight for the right reasons and fight to go the right way. I don't fall in love with parties. I don't do that. I don't do that. Mm-mm. Democrats are going to do what I tell them to do. And if we do not push the Democrats and everybody else, they're just going to go and they're going to go where the money is, because money is the mother's milk of American politics. That's why I've tried to tell you what happens when people go into the state legislature, the money that they owe a party, the money that you owe when you get to Congress, to both houses, the money that you have to raise to run to keep your seat. It's a lot more complex. When you say, "Oh, so and so's just going with the money," do you know what it costs to keep a seat in the lower house of Congress? It's about $1 million, and you got to raise it. So while people think, you're calling the congressman, congresswoman, all that, they're trying to raise money because they got a bill from the Democratic Party, they got a bill from the Republican Party, and they got to pay for their campaign. We need to understand how this works. So we have a publicly funded system, so you don't put these people under that kind of pressure. So come on. And I'm not going to be an apologist for anyone. I'm not. What I'm going to do is try to speak for you and fight for you. That's what I'm going to do. I'll get emotional about you. I'm not going to get emotional about a party. Ain't going to do it. Boom. Not going to do that. Because people do that. These parties do what you demand that they do. That's all. That's it. So I love you, everybody. God bless you. Have a great, 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 great day. I'm going to get on out of here so I can get on with the rest of my day. And I want you to get on and have a beautiful day yourself. Rest in peace. Senator Dianne Feinstein, rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in power and peace. And Gavin Newsom, go on and do the right thing and appoint Congresswoman Barbara Lee to be the senator from the great state of California. That's what you need to do. Mm-hmm. That's what you need to do. No one deserves it more. No one deserves it more. Not because she's black, not because she's a woman, but because she wants to serve the people. That's where I am. I don't do skin worship. I don't do gender worship. I do God worship. And if you love God and you want to do God's work, then I'm going to work with you. Period. Whatever your color, whatever your background, that's what I'm going to do. And that's it. So, Diane, you said the Constitution says we the people, not the party. Yeah, and so did George Washington. They said they wanted him to be king. George Washington said, "Oh no, I won't be king. Not me. I'm not going to do that. Don't want to do that. I'll be president." We just fought that. Then they said, you need to we need to have parties. He said, no, parties end up in tyranny. Hello. What you need to do is be obedient to the Constitution and fight for the country. He also said, no, don't get involved in foreign entanglements. We don't need to do that. He said that too. We better know our history and know what these folks were looking at. We need to know that. I love you, everybody. I'm out of here. So that's right. Barbara Lee is honest and principled. And that for me is it. That for me is it. The color ain't got. If your color and your circumstance, if you use those experiences to make you a better person, okay, great. But a lot of people try to just use their color, and then you want to pull me in because I'm black, so I want someone who looks like me. No, sweetheart, I don't want to do that. Because if color and kind were that important, you'd marry your brother or your sister. You don't want to do that. So just get someone who's decent and someone who's going to hear you. That for me is it. For me, I can't speak for anyone else. I can only speak for myself. So I love you, everybody. I am out of here. I will see you on Sunday on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And again, may you rest in peace and power, Senator Dianne Feinstein. God bless you. God bless you, everybody. God bless all of you. Have a great, great, great day.